The Ensemble podcast is intended for professional financial advisors. This content is created in partnership with our sponsor, Netwealth Investments Limited, ABN 85090 569 109, AFSL 230975, and is limited to publicly available information. Before acting on any general advice, you should consider whether appropriate and obtain financial advice from a qualified financial advisor. Ensemble does not hold an AFS license and does not provide any financial advice or services or endorse any general advice. If a PDS or IM exists, you should obtain a copy and review it thoroughly before making a decision.
Advice Tech. As if it wasn't enough to be across TMDs, Alpha, Beta, Rule of 72, and all the other nuances of financial advice. Now, advisors are expected to be across all the technology options too, and there's so many of them. But never fear, Peter D is here. Join me each week on a journey of discovery through the software and apps on offer for advisors and advice businesses. So let's dive in, fellow advice explorers.
This podcast is proudly sponsored by Netwealth. Imagine a world where you can offer clients access to local and international investments. A world where you can engage with clients meaningfully, backed by powerful data and insights with mobile-friendly technology. A world where you can build business efficiencies through scaled managed accounts and bulk reporting. And a world where you can get all the latest news, research and insights to spot the changes that really matter. Wealth is more than just money. It's about opportunity and progress. A world of opportunity awaits you at netwealth.com.au/woo.
Hello and welcome to the Ensemble Advice Tech podcast. I'm Peter Diamantidis, and the guest joining me here today to deep dive into Open Invest has in fact been a financial planner in the UK, is also a PwC alumni or survivor, depending on your perspective, and even worked in dealer group land here in Australia. So has a very diverse understanding of all the different parts that make up this industry. Thank you so much for joining me on the show, Ravi Verma. Woo!
Thank you for the great introduction and having me on, Peter. Really pleased that we've found time to have a chat today.
Not at all, not at all. And I'm really interested in digging into what you guys are doing there at Open Invest. It's something that I think is going to come up more and more. But before we dive in, I'd love to get to know you a little better through your use of technology. So, what is your most used emoji? Do you even use emojis?
Well, look, at emoji-wise, I tend not to use too many emojis, but what I do love is dishing out that little smiley face with the tears of joy, because it basically means someone has brought to me some laughter and fun, and that's what life's all about, right?
Absolutely.
We spend a lot of our time being serious, particularly in our industry. So yeah, I love dishing out that emoji. So I'd say that's probably my most used one.
Oh, I like it. In fact, it's an unusual one. I'm not sure that's come up before, so well done for being outside the thumbs up, which is the most popular one so far on the podcast. Now, we all live with our smartphones almost surgically attached to us, so imagine you had to delete everything off your smartphone and you could only keep 3 apps. Which ones would you keep?
Yeah, look, that sounds like a dream world to me. This year I've made a concerted effort to actually have less screen time and more nature time. Mm-hmm. But if I was only to have 3 apps, first, music's a big part of my life. So I would say Spotify, Bandcamp, Mixcloud, SoundCloud. I've grouped them as one. Those sort of apps are invaluable to me and my family, because we always listen to music. Recently, I've got into, over the past few years, modular synthesis, and on the long journey to work to the office, on the bus and the train, a great way for me to get creative is use that time on an app called Hexen, which allows me to sort of make music and twiddle bits and pieces and really get deeper into that understanding of modular synthesis.
Ooh.
And then finally, my beloved English Premier Football Club, Wolverhampton Wanderers FC. I pretty much check that app daily just to see news, and particularly if you've lost, to get some positive messaging, because it is a official Wolves app, and they're never too negative on that, even when you lose. So those would be my 3.
And so are you like my husband and get up at the wee small hours to watch it live?
Look, these days I just cannot get up early. So I generally get up on a Sunday morning and watch the game, the full game with my son on a Sunday morning. So
perfect.
It means that, we can watch it together as opposed to me getting up at 2 a.m.
Yeah. My husband has this expression actually that's called silent windmills, which is when he's watching the game at 2 or 3 a.m., it's very exciting. He's jumping up and down, but he can't make any noise because I'm asleep. And so he's doing these silent windmills with his eyes. And our poor dog, looks at him in mystification, like, what is going on?
Yeah, that must be a rather bizarre sight at 2 a.m. in the morning.
I think
someone jumping up and down in silence.
I think so. So, okay, another fan of sporting fans. We have a lot of those. So fingers crossed for your season.
Thank you.
I hope it all goes well. Let's dive into Open Invest. So for those that maybe aren't aware of it, I mean, I'm sure most are, but let's take a step up and just talk about where it sits in the sort of advice tech, fintech space. What category does it fall under? Who do you sort of normally get lined up against? Like, where do you guys fit?
Yeah, okay. Great question. So, look, we're a technology and online investing platform, and really we're designed to help advice firms open up and monetize their investment expertise through having their own online investing solution, which basically means it allows advice firms to really attract and serve a new audience into their brand and wealth ecosystem. But it's all delivered via our at the Open Invest white label solution. So, I mean, that's very high level in terms of what we do, but really, what we're really talking about is, the 90% of Australians who are unadvised. And how do you make professional investing accessible and affordable to the mass market of Australians who, can't afford or don't want a personal advice relationship? So we're sort of unique in this space.
Okay. Although I'd imagine, and in part possibly because of white labeling, so that would be a bit different, is there might be tools out there that are designed to, engage with investing with, that sector of the public, but generally they're their own product or own offering, not something you can white label for your practice or your business. Is that fair?
Yeah, that's fair. And also, there are a number of other white label solutions out there, but they've come at it from a different end of advice than we have. And what I mean by that is, for example, we're not trying to automate or digitize the advice process in any way, whereas the other online investing solutions that offer a white label solution, they've come at it from a personal advice perspective in that they've tried to digitize the advice process, the personal advice process. So, with them, there'd still be an online fact find, there'd be a risk questionnaire, which is done online, and then there'd be an automated generation of an SOA. So, whereas we've really come at it from a general advice perspective. And, the other sort of key difference, if we're sort of touching on what else is available in the market, is some of those other white label solutions, they actually require you to buy into and use their investment IP via their own model portfolios. Whereas through us, what we're actually able to do through our white label offering is deploy for advice firms their own online investing solution, but allowing them to offer actually their own model portfolios and investment IP delivered in the brand of the firm, the advice firm, with their own content flowing through to end investors. And it's all accessible from the website of the advice firm. And because it is delivered via a general advice structure, it means it's scalable and profitable.
Okay. Interesting. All right. So how did it come about? What did it respond to, or what was the evolution that brought this to bear, and particularly, targeting advisors as a channel as opposed to, say, direct to the public?
Yeah, so maybe worth me just spending a few moments just talking about our journey. So the co-founders of the business, 5 years ago, and probably many years before, had a vision to sort of build from scratch an investment platform designed not necessarily with the advisor in mind, but actually with the end investor. And when we started life 5 years ago in terms of a sort of solution, we actually launched our own direct-to-consumer solution, which exists today. It's openinvest.com.au. And really what we were looking to do was build out a solution which would provide access to professionally managed model portfolios for the mass market of Australians who needed help. And so that's really where we were born. And the first iteration of that was really our own direct-to-consumer solution, which we still market and run today. And the vision for that is really to have, some of the top global asset managers offering model portfolios, and for any Australian to come to our website and choose a asset manager they feel an affinity with, pick a model portfolio and invest directly without necessarily having to go through this personal advice process. So on that side of the solution, which is, I know we're not really talking about it today, but on that side of the solution, we've got BlackRock, JP Morgan and Schroders available, and we've got some others going live on that. So that's really where we were starting our journey. But a couple of years ago, we recognized that actually in the industry, there were so many other firms, financial services participants who actually had their own audience that they were trying to serve. They were wanting to sort of put their arms around this new cohort of prospects, clients, investors, but do it outside of that sort of traditional personal advice process. So we actually started a couple of years ago, configuring our technology, our legal structure, our operations to enable any firm actually to have their own online investing solution. So that's really where we began. So really we're an out-the-box, end-to-end, fully supported investment solution, really built to help the mass market of Australians who are seeking help with investing. We want to bring access to professionally managed model portfolios to Australians who struggle to do themselves, and really giving everyone the confidence, reassurance and the well-being that comes with having a professional on your side. The other thing was, we know, having built the investment platform from scratch, we know that technology builds are expensive, they're time consuming, often they fail to deliver. So, what we've built is really a highly configurable, quick to implement solution. And that was really part of why we decided to start white labeling the solution as well, because we knew we had this amazing piece of technology and put the right legal structure around it. And we wanted to, go out and make sure that every firm had an opportunity to, serve those people that they just could not serve under the traditional advice model.
Yeah, okay. And so I'm assuming this is investment only, not super, because that would add its own layers of complexity and difficulty at your end?
Yeah, currently it is an investment only offering, but we have got superannuation on the roadmap. We're committed to delivering superannuation. We're looking at, we've got some consultants in at the moment who are, advising this and looking at our structures. And like you said, that's a heap more headache when you go into superannuation. But look, we've got 40 partner firms signed up as a white label solution, and all of them have asked us for super. So it's definitely something that we want to deliver. Likely, I would say next year is when we start going down that road.
Now, you mentioned the partner firms. So, in terms of the ones that you've been engaging with and maybe others that have shown interest, what's your take on the sort of practice or advisor, I guess, that this works really well, or, for the business and the clients who it works well for, whereas, versus who they might struggle with the concept or struggle with the implementation?
Yeah, sure. So look, I guess each one of those sort of 40 firms that I mentioned, they've each got their own reasons actually for setting up their own online investing solution. And actually, just stepping back from before I go into sort of talking about some of these firms, from my conversations with firms over the last, so many years I've been in the industry, there's really, what I've encountered is there's really four main pain points that most advice firms are faced with. One is, we've got a list of orphan or unprofitable clients in our business, people who we've actually had a relationship with for many years, but those people no longer fit our personal advice model. Now, we don't really want to get rid of these people because we've been looking after them for so many years. So, how can we use a digital solution to find a home for them, where we're still engaged with them with our brand? That's one pain point. The other pain point I often hear is, advice firms have a lot of prospects coming to them, either through referrals or, personal recommendations, but those prospects don't meet the firm's minimum advice threshold. And when I talk about minimum advice threshold, it's really, these days most firms I speak to say, well, if the client's got less than 500,000, $1 million in investable money, we can't really deliver a cost-effective advice process to them. So how do you deal with those prospects where you actually want to have a relationship with them, but they just don't fit your model? So again, how do you put your arms around them using a online investing solution? Third pain point is really the adult children of existing clients. Now we know obviously 3.5 trillion is being passed through intergenerational wealth over the next 2 decades, but we also know that from data that 13% of adult children, only 13% of adult children keep their parents' financial advisor. So how do you use a digital solution in your business to actually engage with the next generation and bring these kids of existing clients into your brand? Start engaging with them now, so when this intergenerational wealth transfer happens, you're going to be the natural partner for them for advice. And then just quickly touching on the fourth sort of common pain point, it's really how do firms work better with accounting referral partners. Often hear stories of from planners who say, we've got various accounting referring partners, but we don't generally tend to get that much coming through from them in terms of referrals. But that's generally I feel that's generally because most of those accounting clients fall into that 90% of Australians who don't want to pay for advice. But for an advice firm to actually now go to the accounting referral partner and actually have a secondary offering, we've got personal advice, this is what it is, this is what it entails, and it's what it costs. But we've also got an online investing solution, because all those accounting clients, particularly self-managed super fund trustees, maybe they don't want a full personal strategic advice relationship. However, they still need help with investing. So it gives the firm something, a secondary offer to go back to. Now, some of those firms who, it's really working well with, and I'll throw out a few examples, because like I mentioned, each firm has got its own reasons for setting up the solution. So, for example, look, we've got firms like Collins House, Knight Financial Group, who have prominent local brands because they're on radio. So they've got a slightly different need because they're known in their wider community because of radio. Their advice thresholds rather high, but they've got all these people coming to them. So they've set up their solution because they needed a more efficient way of bringing people into their brand. We've got accounting firms, integrated accounting and wealth firms like Kelly and Partners. We're going live with Pasco Partners. We've actually just signed a deal with a top 15 national accounting firm, and they've got a database of accounting clients who want help with investing but don't necessarily want personal advice. So that allows the accounting firm to be on the complete wealth journey with their client, enabling them to engage in multiple channels of their business. Perfect for those who don't want or can't afford personal advice. And then we've got firms like, Allman Partners, FMD Financial, Arrow, who really set up their online investing solution to cater for the next generation, the adult children I just mentioned, and also deepen those relationships with those accounting referral partners. We've also got some pretty niche sort of firms like SWU Group, who deal mainly with the Chinese community. We've just launched with a firm called Laverne Capital, who deal with mainly the Indian community, and we're launching in the coming weeks with an Islamic firm. And, they're all trying to make accessible better financial outcomes across their communities. So it's got this sort of approach where, rare disease work for firms, it's really serves a multitude of opportunities and ways that firms can reach a new audience and have
Absolutely.
their investment IP going out.
And so in terms of then, like the trigger for a lot of this is what's so expensive to go to an advisor? And, that's sort of a separate debate, I think, depending on who you talk to. However, I agree. There's certainly an entree into, for some people, they've just got a lump of money. I just want to invest it. Like it's as simple as that. I just want to put this money in the money, so having a solution that meets that makes sense. Clearly, this isn't advice fee sort of connected because it's not personal advice.
Yeah.
I'm presuming there is some sort of what does the client pay the advice firm or accounting firm, if at all? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, great question. And often when I have a conversation with an advice firm, I've got to get them to actually step out of their advisor mindset for a moment, which can be quite difficult. So, because in the Open Invest structure, legal structure, when an advice firm offers its model portfolios through our structure, they're actually acting as a portfolio manager in our registered, in our IDPS-like registered managed investment scheme. So what that means is they're able to offer their investment IP, they're able to monetize it. What I mean by that is they can actually charge a model portfolio fee because it's actually got nothing to do with personal advice. So it's really helping firms understand what is general advice, how can you offer an online investing solution, how can you earn a recurring revenue which is sticky from the solution. It's a solution which you can then offer as part of your overall client value proposition, but it's not personal advice. So it's certainly a solution which can complement what you're doing on the personal advice side of things, but you're not actually providing advice, and therefore you're not charging an advisor fee. It's a portfolio management fee. But we work very closely with all our firms. We make sure they're fully across the differences between general advice, personal advice. We provide a lot of support, conversation and guidance and tools and templates to help them understand the differences, and we provide training across the whole of the firm. So, for a lot of firms, it is new. A lot of them haven't done general advice before. So, it's just working through the mechanism and understanding what they can do, what they can say. And often it's the journey. What's the journey of the investor getting to that solution? I mean, obviously you can provide advice and go through your normal and typical advice process. Yeah. But then that's you wearing your advisor hat, having to do an SOA and charging appropriately. Or there's, making someone aware that you've got an online investing solution, that it's general advice, that it's up to the prospect to go and choose a portfolio and follow their nose from your website. And so we help through all that mechanism.
And what are most of them doing? Are they doing something that's, in terms of the model portfolios, they then sort of offer up, for want of a better description? Is it sort of risk-based or is it more outcome-based? Like, how are they presenting it in terms of then letting the client, choose their own adventure in that sense? Yeah,
and look, the model portfolios that the firms offer vary. So some firms offer, a fully diversified multi-asset model portfolios across that sort of typical risk spectrum. So they may have a conservative model, a balanced model, and a more growth-oriented model. Some firms are offering sector-specific models. And for example, I mentioned SWU Group there, specifically targeting the sort of Chinese community. Yep. So they've got an Asia-specific model, which is, appeals to that audience. So, so really, it's up to the advice firm to understand their audience, understand their database, understand who they're trying to reach. So, for example, if an advice firm particularly wanted to reach the next generation, they may they may be looking more at a low-cost type model portfolio where they're only using ETFs and managed funds, and it might be ESG flavor to it because, as we know, the next generation investors, socially responsible investing is very important to them. So it's about choosing the models and building models which appeal to the audience that you're trying to attract. And it doesn't have to be the same models that you run under the advice business, because a lot of firms choose not to offer the same portfolios because they don't want to cannibalize what they're doing on the advice side. So they choose different model portfolios for their online investing solution.
And so you talk about the journey because you mentioned content too as part of this. So is it more like, is there just a whole lot of stuff that the firm can then put up, or is it something that's almost follow the bouncy ball style of content? How does it generally work for the client?
So what we've actually done is not only did we build an investment platform, but we also actually built a publishing platform to marry up with the investment platform. So what that means is that an advice firm has now also got the ability to publish content, engaging content. And that content can be video content, it can be written content, it can be podcasts, images, whatever it is. But what it means is they can actually push out content when they're ready. And that could be around portfolios. So if they've made a change to the portfolio, or they simply just want to provide their thinking on the portfolio, it could be, articles, financial education, financial well-being. It could be promoting other services in their business. But essentially, the platform was really built on the premise that content is king. So it delivers a very easy way to deliver unique and engaging content that creates this emotional connection with their brand, which is particularly important for, obviously, Gen Y and Gen Z, who want that digital content experience. But what we do is we work very closely with firms to encourage them to consistently use this functionality and really help them, write things in a very plain English manner. We provide them with a lot of examples. We're actually working at the moment with a bank of content which the firms can take and they just brand their own, or they just push out. So it's really designed as this, not only an investment platform which takes the investor on this investment journey, but the ability for the firm to actually communicate on a one-to-many level through the end investor app and investor portal, and constantly sort of build confidence in the end investor and bring this brand awareness to them in the palm of their hand.
Yeah, okay. And so let's imagine somebody's come to it, and maybe it is the kids of a client, or it's somebody that's come to them from hearing them on radio, like you say, something like that, and they've invested in the particular model portfolio. It's ticking along, and then down the track, they've got a query that's sort of more strategic in nature, and they want some assistance. Can that be triggered through the tool to the advisor? How does that all work?
Yeah, a great question. So part of what we're building at the moment actually is the ability for, because currently it's a general advice solution.
Yeah.
So it's actually the end investor who's in control of the journey. So the end investor jumps on the website, the firm's website. The investor chooses the model portfolio from the information that the firm decides to present. The investor opens the account via an online, literally takes 5 minutes online application. The investor then engages with that firm via an investor portal and app, and the investor can transact and pull off reports and so forth.
Yeah.
But what we're building out shortly, will be released in the coming months, is actually advisor functionality as well. So allowing the advisor not only to open an account and service and transact, but also the ability for the end investor to see all the advisors in that firm in the investor portal, to be able to click a button, connect with an advisor if they need strategic advice, call the advisor. We've got the ability to then show the advisor's profile, a little bio, and their email. So it becomes this real great way of a general advice client connecting with not only the brand of the firm, but also individual advisors within that firm, and then take that next step. They may have had an inheritance, or they feel that they need some strategic advice. Then through the software and tech, be able to actually contact the advisor directly and have a conversation about becoming a full-blown personal advice client.
Yeah, okay, and I can see that's probably where the content can come into play. Cleverly having content that might bring to mind some of the needs that an advice, a personal advice, solution can meet. Then and to make them aware that, hey, if that meets your need, then reach out. So I think that's where the content can be clever, because otherwise, the danger is that they see this as the only solution. And if something does come up, they go elsewhere, So I think the content probably is powerful for ensuring they're aware of the expertise of the firm and what they can provide to them other than what they're currently getting.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. The ability for the firm to publish, articles, and that could be video as well, is key, because, that's the firm's opportunity to start building that confidence in that end investor, pushing, letting that investor know that, hey, we've got all these other services available. It might be, hey, have you thought about will writing or inheritance, or, hey, send a financial year tax statement, whatever it is. It's just gives this great opportunity for the firm to make the investor aware of everything they offer.
Yeah, so I think it makes a lot of sense to me from that, that sort of path, I guess, where it's the starting point is general and it might escalate over time to personal. I think that now it's not an experience that the public or even the advice sector has designed well before. So I think it's new in that sense, but I think that makes perfect sense. I can see the possibility of challenges when it's the reverse, when it's going from, a historical personal advice relationship and, that becomes more and more difficult due to cost or, all sorts of reasons. Shifting it back is potentially difficult only because they're used to just call, markets happen. They're used to just calling,
Yeah.
But I just talk to the advisor when I'm worried, so I think that would require a fair bit of, I guess it's change management, some really intensive change management to get them used to the fact that, if they freak out about markets, which I mean is one of the things that is quite common in those, when they get to that point, often the interactions are purely about that, and it is that sort of hand holding that's the difference, that's what you won't be getting as part of this.
Yeah, I mean, probably worth me adding, actually, we within the end investor portal and the app and, throughout the sign-up process there, we offer our own customer support experience. Yep. So we do all that for the firm. So anyone who's got a question, they can phone up. There's a chat box which they can write a question in. And so we handle all the queries. And actually, I haven't got the data at hand, but most of the queries coming in, I generally actually don't relate to, the investment decisions or what's going on in markets. Because remember, the content publishing aspect of it means that the advisor firm can actually be on the front foot.
Yeah.
And if markets are going haywire, they can publish something straight away that morning. If markets have been going crazy, particularly in the US overnight, they can publish something straight away and provide that confidence to that investor.
Yeah.
And within the system, there's, so many automatic notifications built in where, if they publish, let's say, a portfolio update and they're talking about markets and, what's going on, an automatic email lands in that investor's inbox and, encourages them to log on and take a read. So that sort of means that, the queries that we're handling, we don't often see many around the investment side, but if we do get those queries to say, hey, I just want to talk to someone about the investment, not sure what's going on, then we would normally pass that on to the firm. But key, actually, I'm glad you mentioned it, because key to all this is really when a firm is setting up their own online investing solution, key to this is really them embedding it into their current operating system.
Yes.
As opposed to just having it as a sort of satellite service.
Yep.
So it's really them embracing this and bringing it into their complete offering. And often that may mean, depending on how successful they become, it may mean that they have a dedicated person who, is that sort of go-to within the business, who does take those calls if they come in, and is able to deal with those general advice clients as well.
Yeah.
But again, we sort of talk that through with the firms and make sure they understand and are fully armed with the resources that they need.
Yeah, and I think, there's probably a transition process then for the firm themselves. If they've, so for example, if they're not currently responding, like you say, to market issues with content, so if that's not something that's part of their model already, and I mean, it could be a webinar or it could be an email or whatever they normally do, when things go good or bad or sideways.
Yeah.
Then if they're not doing that already, then that's probably going to be a challenge, because from what you're describing, that's the way to almost preempt the queries. That's the way to provide the complete solution, is such that the material that hits them is right at the thought, the moment where they go, oh, I just saw the news and I saw this. I wonder what that means. And then it goes, badink, hey, we've just put together this video on what's going on with, So I guess that is also something that the firm probably needs to consider, like you say, is, well, what are you doing already along these lines? And then how can you apply that to this part of your offering?
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. In terms of integration, I'm guessing because it's not part of a normal advice process, then you guys probably don't need to integrate with, the normal advice tools. Have you got any integrations in place?
Currently we don't integrate with any other tools, but we are an open API-enabled technology solution. So this is certainly something we're keen on, and we can work with any external party on either pushing or pulling data via API integration. Currently in terms of advice software, I guess, we've got discussions going on with, for example, the likes of Fin365, and looking at how we integrate with them. We're actually currently working on a project to integrate with BGL, the accounting software. So, we've got projects going on which are looking at ways of integrating and supporting advice firms where they've got their personal advice software in play. But we're also actually looking at other ways of how we could help the experience for the end investor, but also the advice firms. And for example, currently we're in discussion with a third party who provide tools that help both the pre and the post investor journey. And so we're looking at how do we integrate those into the tech, make that journey better for the end investor. That's great for the firm as well. So there's a lot of stuff that we're looking into and that we can do and that we're working on.
And I mean, as a foundation to be, operating Open API as a start, right? Because it means then it's not a big leap to integrate with another tool that's similar. So whether it's, the more broader CRMs, things like that, where it might just be, like you say, about some basic data or even triggers. I mean, that's something that we find valuable with tools that can talk to each other, is just hey, they did this, so it triggers something else in the in another system. It's that stuff. Often we overcomplicate those things, whereas sometimes those triggers are enough. It just helps you get even just a picture of the individual. Based on their behavior, that can be really powerful. So the fact that it's on that, already on a sort of an open API approach is exciting. And it's one of those things that I'm hoping more and more of the tech that comes into play in advice tech and fintech does that, because that's how we can all get these great end results, these wonderful tech stacks that really work for us.
Well, that's right. And there's no reason why, particularly the new pieces of technology, they can't just share data. I mean, it's like you said, we don't need to overcomplicate things. It's really just sharing data. And, firms, why can't firms use different tools and different pieces of software? But, why can't we allow all those pieces of software just to talk to each other? It's sort of actually just Andrew, who's our CEO and co-founder, we always have a bit of a laugh because we always take things forward to our IT team for development, and we always have this hashtag, how hard can it be? Because we're not IT guys. We're like, yeah, how hard can you? Surely that's just a spreadsheet.
Well, look, with the world of ChatGPT and other AI solutions that can write you the code when you ask it for a particular thing, I think all of that world's going to change significantly.
Yes.
The barriers to tech development, I think, are going to come down super fast. We'll see what happens.
I agree. Actually, yeah, I mean, this AI, particularly with ChatGPT, and I know there's other AI systems out there. I mean, I use quite a cool one, which does sort of graphic design. But for ChatGPT, yeah, I mean, look, we've been looking at AI as well, and particularly in how do we use AI to support firms with content and marketing. Yep. And there's some, since we've been looking into this, there's some great businesses out there, forward-thinking Australian businesses. For example, we're in discussion with one at the moment who, use AI in marketing and really sort of work with firms to not only look at their marketing plan, they use AI to sort of implement everything. And so, yeah, there's some interesting stuff going on in this space.
Correct. And when you think about, what would be powerful, I mean, we were just talking about an example of, a firm or an advisor being able to produce content that's going to almost answer the question before the individual or the client knows they're going to ask it, so that really sort of responsive based on external factors.
Yeah.
That sort of thing would be a wonderful tool to have. Okay, this is the noise out in, say, Australians. These are the questions they're asking generally, whether it's in chat groups or whatever it might be. Here's the top 10 things that are being asked for this week, and that just poses that to the firm or the advisors and go, hey, if you want to be topical, pick one of those. Off you go.
That's right.
I mean, even that's powerful, because a lot of what we end up writing, I know I'm guilty of this, is so defined by our own window into these things and our own bubble. And it's not necessarily what would add be most beneficial or is actually from the consumer's bubble, So sometimes those insights where really all they're asking, I mean, like it might be, what the hell is inflation? Like we're all talking as if everybody knows what that is. What if that's something that everybody keeps on asking? I don't even know what the hell inflation is, like getting that insight so that you can target your content and really make it land for people. I mean, all of that effort wasted, or the time saved because it's gonna really hit well is fantastic. I'm really excited by those sort of things.
Absolutely. I mean, I don't know if anyone listening in has sort of been onto ChatGPT, but Stacey, who's our chief marketing officer, she's just posed a few questions to ChatGPT. It's simple questions like you said, what is inflation, or what is diversification?
Yep.
And the output has actually been surprisingly really good, written in a very clear, concise, easy to understand. And like you said, it's not us as industry participants writing it with our experience and knowledge, and often we write in a very industry professional specific way. It's actually written in a very easy to understand way for the mass market. And so when it comes to producing content, I mean, literally, in less than a minute, you can pose a question, have something printed off, read it through, check it. Yeah, that sounds great. Publish it. And because it's none of the work on ChatGPT is copyrighted, I don't think, so you can use it. It means that firms have actually now got access to heaps of content and questions and answers that they can start pushing out.
And particularly as I think for many, in our industry, then one of the biggest barriers is just starting with that stuff. Like very few of us have got to the point, I'm trying really hard to get to this point, but very few have got to the point where we can produce content consistently, like it's a machine, like we are with other things in the business. And so to have something that just breaks that jumps over that first hurdle is, well, here's a sample of what you could write. I mean, the thing you end up writing might in no way look like that, but it's a really good start to just trip that behavior. I mean, I even managed to ask it some questions, and then, it's me here. So, my writing always leans on the cheeky side. And so I said to it, can you please rewrite that with a cheekier tone? And it did. Now, it didn't exactly sound like me, but it was much closer to that. So, you can really get a long way and then just, do your thing to it, and break it up and insert some of your own insights and all that sort of thing. But I agree. I think these tools are more about amplification. I don't think they replace the effort, but I think they can escalate it and amplify it for us, which is pretty exciting.
I know this whole AI thing, suddenly becoming a bit scary in a way, but I've actually just finished reading 2001: Space Odyssey. I saw the film 30 years ago, but I picked up the book from Hard Rubbish someone had thrown away in Australia. I just finished reading it, and that's, I guess, that really is talking about this sort of AI, computers sort of taking over. And it's exciting stuff. And
look, I think we were literally talking about that with some friends yesterday over lunch, and every invention ever made has been used for good and bad, and I think we sort of need to expect that with anything, right? And I mean, crypto is another example of that, right? So I think it's more about understanding the shifts in the world like this, if for no other reason than we need to understand them as people that understand investments. Like, I think we have to understand these tools merely because we're going to need to help our clients understand them and how they might change the investing world and companies and their future, So I think even if we don't plan on using them, which most of us probably are without realizing it, but even if we plan on avoiding them, I still think there's a level to which advisors need to get their head around it, just because it will change industry. And so that therefore changes our advice. So we chatted about a few things that are coming up. Is there anything else that's on the future wish list or the future development plan that you guys are excited about?
There's loads. So look, our ultimate goal is really to create, can't live without platform experiences, both for the end investor and partner firms. And I touched on there the sort of full advisor functionality. We're also working on the ability to firms not only to be able to offer their own model portfolios, but also where they can offer a curated list of assets. We've got international, so we can access the London Stock Exchange, and we've got assets available on Luxembourg, but we're going live on the 1st of June with New York Stock Exchange and NASDAQ. And then the next sort of big project in line for us is really fractionalization, which is really all designed to lower the entry point, to help more people. So, how can someone with, $500 invest in a fully diversified model portfolio and gain access to professional management? Typically, that can't happen when you're talking lower amounts. And so we're going to be building out and looking at fractionalization where, the entry point into a model portfolio or an asset can start for as little as $10 or whatever it might be. So that really then opens up being able to help more Australians. Because it's not just for the wealthy, right? Investing should be for everyone. But professional investing and getting access to professional help should be for everyone.
Well, that is very exciting, actually, because I think it's where the disconnect with the public happens, is when, well, you've got to have this amount. And they're like, well, isn't part of me getting that amount by getting help and investing well? Like, it's this circular argument, So having a solution that lets them start to put money aside and experience the investing world early, I think is really powerful. So that's super exciting. Is there anything else we've missed? Have we sort of covered the broad areas of what you guys offer?
Yeah, I think so. I think probably the other thing I just want to add is, for us working with advice firms, it's really a long-term collaborative approach, and we apply that collaboration across everything we do. So for us, it's not just about getting a partner firm live and waving them goodbye, wishing them well, and hopefully they're going their way and start signing up investors. We actually, work very closely with each partner firm. We share ideas. So, hey, look, here's what this partner firm A has done. They've done this EDM. We share the wording, or, hey, here's partner firm B. They've held an event for their existing clients and family and friends and kids. Here's what they've done. So it's really about creating this environment where we all share from each other and we all learn. We're not in competition with each other.
Yeah.
We're just trying to help as many people as we can. And all our partner firms are in with that mindset. And, we're working with some of the most, ambitious and progressive firms, some of who I've mentioned today. And I think that sort of collaboration is key. And so, for any firms out there who sort of are interested, just say reach out. But it's definitely not something that you feel you need to just do by yourself. We provide a lot of support and a lot of discussion and so forth.
Fantastic. All right, Advice Explorers. If you'd like to find out more about Open Invest, then the website link is in the episode show notes, along with Ravi's LinkedIn details. I'm sure he'll then point you in the right direction of who can help and who can start your journey. Thank you so much for joining us, Ravi, and for sort of adding to the tool bag we have as advisors to sort of help all of the various sectors of the public. I think the more we have of these, then the more likely we are going to get to the great portion of the Australian public that we all struggle to serve. So thank you very much for joining us and for adding some great value.
Thanks for having me, Peter. It's been a pleasure.
So, are you one of the firms currently using Open Invest? It's not a huge list, but you might be one of those. So we'd love to hear. I'm sure all of the listeners of today's episode would love to hear how you found it, why it works for you, how, the public respond, how the clients respond. Please share your insights on the Ensemble community platform, as this is how we all get a better feel for what solutions might work as we go forward and really do sort of build out the different offerings we have for different sectors of the community. In terms of my thoughts for this sort of tool, I think, in talking through it, Ravi, of what you can provide and what needs to be clear before you can, I think that, having a well thought out, structured, documented investment methodology will be fundamental to doing this. If that hasn't been enunciated sort of in writing, regular revisits, you've got meetings set, you've really got a humming sort of schedule for that. If you haven't done that first, then I think it would probably be a struggle to implement something like this tool, because essentially, like Ravi said, you're shifting into that sort of portfolio management role. So this is less one-to-one. It's more about the overarching solution, the logic of why you've selected it, and how it works. So I think, that is sort of a first step. The second step, I think, after that would be having something that pulls that together in a way that somebody could then pick which of them they choose. So how do you sort of, disseminate that in a way that makes it clear and really easy to understand for somebody who's just landing on a website, which is essentially what's going to happen here, and making a choice. So I think that's probably the first key thing, is the investment methodology. The second, I think, will be about getting a structure and a schedule around your responsive content. So there's certainly content that can be the underlying, the theories behind these things. So you could almost cut up your investment methodology and make that part of the content that goes out. But I think you would also need to think about, how often are you going to produce things? Is it going to be a topical 5-minute thing every week, month, whatever it might be that talks about what's going on, and therefore what might be occurring with their investment, and, being ready to do that, to machine it, to have it happen consistently, because that is the offer. Right? So that's what you're providing. So I think those are the two key elements that would be fundamental to implementing a tool like this really well. I don't think any of us would doubt that it could fit very well within a certain group that you might be trying to attract, and being able to focus on a category and then have, one type of general advice solution or a tailored personal advice solution, I think that, down the track, that's going to make sense for more and more practices, so that we can really, our niche becomes more about the community we serve as opposed to somebody who can pay, right? That becomes less material as the community itself, the particular niche that we select. Now, as you know, there's only one skill we need to become bionic advisors, and that is avid curiosity. And to help you build that habit, we've got our Curiosity Corner section of the episode each week. Today's app that caught my eye is Storytale. Now, you can find it at storytale.io. These guys are actually in beta, but their tagline is break the screen. Create and host live content that tells your story for the reaction it deserves. This came about because the founders saw the sort of virtual events and meetings we were all taking part in and running during lockdowns, and realized we needed a better way to engage people virtually that just wasn't sharing our screen, which is what we all do, what I literally just did last week for a webinar that I ran. So, that's the sort of thing they're going, hey, how can we elevate that and how can we lift our game? And so the tool goes well beyond a screen share of slides, and it actually gets your audience involved in your content rather than just watching it. You can embed type forms, newsletter opt-ins, polling, all actually clicked on by the attendees through the screen they're watching you on, not via, say, a link in the chat or something that's separate. So it's all embedded in this experience. So it's a journey that happens on the screen that can be branded to the way you want it to be branded. And to be honest, really looks really cool. It almost sort of looks more like you're going through an app experience than just a screen share experience. In fact, I'm so excited about the possibility of this concept. I'm actually going to be running some tech tip sessions over the next little while, trialing this technology specifically. So if you're curious about it and want to find more, then be sure to follow me on LinkedIn, and then I'll share when the next session is going live and you can register for it and experience it for yourself. It may be something you could use for your clients, for your targets, even for internal training. If you've gone virtual, maybe you've got your team you want to connect with. There's so many ways that you could utilize this tool for pitches, all sorts of things. So definitely, follow me on LinkedIn, connect if you're interested, and we can see what we think and help be part of developing the tool into its next phase. Well, that's all we've got for this week. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you'll get your advice tech fix automatically sent to you each Friday. And I'd really love to hear what session or webinar or presentation you would love me to run in the future. What how-to session would add the most value? Is there a particular section of advice tech you'd love an introductory webinar on? Maybe what would you like to learn more about? How can I even add value in the business transformation space to you? And of course, if you're keen to have me as a speaker at, say, your dealer group's next event, then please don't hesitate to let me know, DM me on LinkedIn, and I'm super happy to reach out to them and let them know how I can help. Of course, you can find me on LinkedIn /PeterMD. That's PEITAMD. Otherwise, I'll look forward to turning up in your earbuds next week. And remember, Advice Explorers, stay curious.